Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back to Horror Analysis with me, Drew. We've finished the course. Congratulations if you've stuck with me this far. 64 videos. This will be number 65, actually. And we're done. Now time for your final exam. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not doing a final exam because this is a video course. I'm not grading however many people will do one. But I did want to talk about the course. I'm going to do 2 wrap-up videos on the course in general, where I'm not really talking about horror. I'm talking about myself, which is weird for me to do. I've done 64 videos of horror analysis over a year and a half. And, you know, I don't know if it seemed like much to you, but this is me accomplishing a life's goal of mine. And I have to say that feels really, really fucking good. Pardon my French, but that F word needed to be dropped. It feels really damn good. Yeah. Peace of mind, there's a lot of peace of mind going on there. And I feel really good about it. And thank you if you've come with me on at least part of the journey, or if you just watched 5 minutes of one of my videos. Geez, that feels good. And, you know, I really enjoyed making this course. Besides the peace of mind stuff, it was fun to do. I learned so much from this, and it is fantastic. Just the amount of stuff that I've gone through with this is great. But this video, you know, what I wanted to do was do a wrap-up course, which means I want to go over a wrap-up for the course. I wanted to go over the course and sort of say what I did well in the course. Should someone else decide, hey, I'm a teacher, I'd like to teach this course in high school or college or something, and want to use this as some sort of resource for myself. It's an unlikely scenario, I'm sure, but you know what? This is part of the videos I was planning on making, so I'm going to make it anyway. So, if you're that 1 in, 12 billion chance person, this one's for you. So, what I enjoyed about the course was the first thing I was talking to. What the course needs. The course really needs a psychology of horror section. I probably will feel compelled to go back, read up on philosophy of horror, which has a big philosophy of horror, psychology of horror section. What was it called? Paradox of the Heart. The why horror question. I've actually been reading, I found one of my aesthetics books from way back, and I was reading a why tragedy, which is essentially the same question as why horror nowadays. The problem of tragedy. Why would why do people go and seek out sad or horrific or painful things and get enjoyment out of them? My mom does, but my mom doesn't like horror, and she gets weirded out that I like horror and have this obsession with horror. Considering I made 64 videos about it, I guess I can own up to having an obsession about horror. But, she doesn't get why I would seek out horrific things. But she listens to sad music on occasion. She will watch a sad movie, like, I don't know, Beaches or whatever in the 80s, or, stuff. Tragedies. Shakespeare's tragedies. She'll watch Shakespeare's tragedies and gain some enjoyment out of them. I think she did when she was in college, I know she did her thesis on Camus. Tragedies. Why do people seek out tragedies? It's the same question as why do people seek out horror? The same answers that people come up with, which aren't really... since the question is one of those perennial questions, the question obviously hasn't been answered sufficiently. So I'll probably feel the need to go back and do a why horror, or psychology of horror, or sociology of horror, whichever one that is. Those three things. So in the first video, when I said I don't want to do this, I still don't. But I will. And, I want to read through Noel Carroll's arguments on paradoxes of the heart, which is the section on why horror. And I want to read through this tragedy thing in my aesthetics book that I have out there, out in the living room. Because it is of slight interest to me. More from a pedagogical standpoint now. I never know how to pronounce that word. But this video is basically a pedagogy video about how to teach the course. The course needs a psychology of horror, a why horror, a sociology of horror, why horror is good for society sort of thing. It's easy for me to say a healthy society has horror in it. Art horror. Not actual horror, that would be an unhealthy society. I just made it splash in my tea. Iced tea today, it's hot out. Hopefully I'll only go through one bottle, because I only brought one bottle out. But anyway, there's a need for psychology, sociology of horror. I probably will do it. I'm going to make another wrap-up video. I'm going to make 2 special topic videos that I really want to make, which are essentially videos of if you're going to make a class of this, you would want term papers from people. Sample term papers would be the 2 videos I want to make. One's horror comedy, and one's a very specific genre, which is mind control, alien, parasites. Which is Shivers, Slither, The Faculty, The Puppet Masters, and a couple of others. A very specific subgenre would be a very good topic for a term paper in this course. That makes sense, right? That's if you're teaching this course, as I've sort of been teaching this course without the student interaction, you would want certain term papers. When originally conceived, I'd also have a book report in there, and a movie report. A movie report being a small portion of the grade, book report being a moderately sized portion of the grade, term paper being a moderately larger sized portion of the grade, and then the final and midterms and stuff like that. I'm going to go over next video the actual time bits. I'm going to go over it a little bit now, but I'm going to go over it a lot more detailed next video, because that's the point of next video. No, it's talking to myself, thinking to myself. But the term paper, what should a term paper be? Well, book report of Dracula or Frankenstein or whatever. If you're an English teacher, you know what that should be. If you're an English teacher in college, you know what that level should be. If you're an English teacher in high school, you know what that level should be. And of course, that's going to be broken down a little bit more next video. Because what I talked about, a portion of what I talked about during this video, and this series of videos, this 64 preceding videos, were stuff that could be assigned as homework. I talked about it all on the camera because I didn't really expect people to go out and buy the books and follow along in the stuff. That's an investment, whatever. You're welcome to. If you did, wow. Thank you. But, I didn't really expect people to go and read up on the subject before I talked about it. So I talked about it more at length. If this was a class presented to a high school, you would have to talk about it more at length because high school students would be some proportion less self-motivated to do the readings than college students. College students aren't all that greatly motivated to do readings for classes either, but they're more motivated than high school students. By some percentage that I'm not going to quantify. But, I talked about it as much as I could. You would expect that some of the students, you would assign, okay, this is the reading for Noel Carroll pages, oh, actually I have that, 1 second. The original horror analysis things. If I did, yeah, Noel Carroll, the first week of reading would be 12 through 58, which would go over monsterness, what horror needs to be, interstitiality, and monstrosity. It's the intro to Noel Carroll and up to 58, which I think is the end of monstrosity. And then there's Stephen King's and the little portion of Stephen King that the outsider idea from Danse Macabre, and then the little portion of the first chapter in Supernatural Horror and Literature and Lovecraft. You would have that as assigned reading in the first week or two, however long it took to get, depending on what level of students you're talking about. If it was a college freshman or high school senior or college senior, whatever level that was, you would have more assigned reading outside of class, less time talking about it in class. You'd go through it faster in class, the higher the level, and the more reading outside of class. It might take 2 weeks for a high school senior in what a college senior would go through in 1 week. I'm trying to illustrate that point. I'm being long-winded about it. I apologize. Alright. Yeah, that's the original paper. The original course syllabus that's sort of been torn apart. Yeah, and I'll go over that more later. Problems I had with the course. That's probably where I should step into now. Problems I had with this course, first was technological. I had computer problems out the wazoo. I know December through February was basically a write-off on this computer because it was being repaired. It's still not 100%. In April, it crashed again. Yeah, so the beginning of December through February, end of February, that and then April it died again for another week. I've had a lot of technological issues. And then there's the general, this is the first video course I've done. The first videos I've done were before I bought this thing. So I went back and made the first videos with this thing, so the sound wasn't so awful as it was in the laptop integrated mic, which is just crap. But this thing's a lot better. So, you know, the growing pains that I went through as a content maker, what I'm learning, and a lot of that is also the umming and ahhing on camera that I'm doing always. In a classroom situation, I could tighten that up. Since I've gone through it once, I can go through it again. Or if you're a teacher, the first time you teach a course, you're going to be very nervous about teaching the course. The second time you're teaching the course, you're going to be a lot more calm about it. As I said, I did teach 1 year. If I was teaching new content, the first period class I had would be a lot rougher going than the second period course and the third period course I had. By the third period course, I was like, okay, everybody, da-da-da-da-da. I was tearing through it so much so that my students in the third period would be a day or two ahead of the students in my first period. A couple of weeks in, which was rough. But, if I taught for more than 1 year, it's like, okay, I've done this before, I'm not going to be nervous about it. I could teach all the classes at the same pace. I didn't have that practice beforehand. But if I had the practice now, if I taught this course in the classroom, I would not be umming and ahhing as much. I'd be much more confident. So I could have tightened up on the umming and ahhing. I could have tightened up on the content making. I don't know if I will. I don't think I have the inner motivation to go back through all the videos, and now that I know how to put in links, to the pictures that I put up. If I put up a picture of a link in the whatever, I'll put up a, click here to actually watch the video that I'm talking about, or click here to look at the Wikipedia article, or whatever. I don't think I have the patience to go back to all the videos, all 64 videos, watch through them, find the links, and put them in. That's a bit much. But I could, and it would make for a better course. But as the course is not done, because I'm still feeling that I'm going to go back and do horror psychology. But as the course is uploaded, I don't think I'm going to go back to video 1 and start putting in links for stuff that might not even be up anymore. It's one of those things. And of course, one of the things I would like to fix is just content problems. If I was missing information on something. Actually, I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't see it. I have a bunch of DVDs on my bedside table there. I bought Planet Terror, which is a Freddy Rodriguez is the actor in it. Michael Rodriguez. Is it Michael? No, Robert Rodriguez. Robert Rodriguez is the director. I talked about Robert Rodriguez with Planet Terror and Dusk Till Dawn when I was talking about South American, Central American, and North American, like Mexican style horror. I mentioned him. I think I mentioned him in modern American or modern day 90s horror as well, for Dusk Till Dawn. And I mentioned his, what was it called? It was air quoted. Filmmaking is mariachi filmmaking, where he has this method of filmmaking that's sort of, if you know someone with a fast car, like a speedy car, you're using that resources. Hey, I know someone with a speedy car. I know someone with a cool motorcycle. Well, let's get him in the movie. We'll have him drive the motorcycle, and it'll look cool. And it'll, have the guy drive down the road really fast in his fast car, and it'll look cool. We don't have to hire out a car at a whatever, so it's saving on resources. It's sort of not guerrilla, but it's using more resources that aren't just money resources. And in Planet Terror, I actually watched the special features because I got the double disc. I definitely recommend the double disc. And Planet Terror has just jumped up within the last 2 days into my top 20 movies of all time. It is fantastic. The way he interacts with his actors and his people and everybody, he's great. He didn't write half the script until he was hanging out with the actors and got them to, got their personalities. So basically, the actors don't have to act. It's just them being them in a zombie apocalypse with other crazy stuff going on. It's such a fantastic idea, and that's that mariachi style filmmaking. Mariachi style? I think that is. And I whiffed it when I was first talking about it in the first video. Robert Rodriguez. Right. I did not get the concept fully. I'm not going to talk anymore about Planet Terror. I could, and I really want to, but I'm not going to. If you haven't seen it, go see it. If you've seen it, watch it again. It's fantastic. Watch the special features. Oh my god, his attention to details. Fantastic. Oh my god. No wonder he hangs out with Quentin Tarantino so much. Anyway. Where was I? Before Planet Terror took over. So yeah, missing information. I whiffed on stuff. I know I did. It was impossible for me not to. I was working without a net for so much of the stuff. Again, if I were to reteach this course in a classroom setting, A, I'd be monetarily motivated to do more research. B, I'd be more confident in giving out information and being more confident about the information. I wouldn't whiff as much. I don't want to say, take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm confident on a lot of it. There's a lot, and I've mentioned it as I was talking, for the most part, on the stuff that I wasn't confident about. I'm human. Sorry, guys. Now, the stuff that going into the next section that I want to talk about, the stuff that I am really proud about, besides the fact that I got through the course, the horror anthropology. If you've watched the first 3 videos of horror anthropology, I was really expecting only to get milk 3 videos out of that. It ended up being 10. I was not expecting there to be much to get a flavor for the areas, the regions of each of the world and their horror. I was hoping to get a flavor for Asia and a flavor for South America, and contrast that with that European flavor. But no, there's all sorts of European flavors. There's all sorts of Asian flavors. There's Central American and Latin North American stuff, and Caribbean flavors are different than South American flavors, and Africa does have its own flavor. I was able to find a little bit, not much. Wish I could find more, but and then again, Australia, another one was really happy about. Australia and New Zealand have distinct flavors from themselves and distinct flavors from Britain and America. Really happy about that sort of stuff. Really happy about that. It turned out far better than I expected. So did, in my opinion, history backwards. I still think it's the way history should be taught. And since I, working without a net, trying to teach it backwards, especially art history. Art history history backwards, achronological, going from present back to past. I think is the way to teach art history, certainly. Possibly just regular history. I think it worked well. I think the frame of reference of today, most people taking this course, or taking any course, will know the certain current events going on today to a certain amount, to a certain aspect, to a certain respect. That's the word I was after. And then if you go and teach the course, okay, this is what today is, we have an idea of. Here's what happened 10 years ago. Here's what happened 10 years before that, after you get a grasp on what 10 years ago was. Then after you get a grasp of 20 years ago, here's what happened 30 years ago. And this is how that influenced everything else. So you keep your frame of reference of today. I still think that should be a thing. And in general, I'm proud of my history of horror in a more general sense. I'm sorry, I'm doing math real quick. 19 to 42. It's 23 videos of history of horror. One is just explaining horror history backwards, but 22 videos then of horror history, which is really good. And one was one doesn't count either. So there's a couple of the videos that just don't count. I'll go over those next time. That's part of the class thing. Class breakdown, which is going to be next video. I didn't give up on topics, which I'm giving myself a pat on the back on as well. Fusion and fission. I made a fission video as like number 4. Actually, I have the thing here. This is my Excel document of the classes and how long they take and how many I've uploaded thus far, etc. I did fission. I did fusion as number 5, and then I didn't give up, and I went back and re-examined it and number 54. 64 videos. And then I didn't give up on fission either. When I did the first fission one, a month later I did a fission part B, and a month after that I did a fission part C. Or 2 months after that, I did a fission part C. It's tenacity I didn't think I would have, a rigor. I showed certain work ethic, I guess. I don't know. I'm not good at patting myself on the back, but whatever. I'm not trying not to lay it on thick either. But it was like, good job, Drew. Hey, thanks, Drew. But no, I'm glad that I didn't give up on that. I was like, I'm still thinking about fusion. I did the first video, March, and then I did another video March a year later. Wow, okay, that's 50-something videos later, and 49 videos later, technically, but still having it on there. Oh, that's not what I wanted yet. Oh, I did want to talk about, a couple things that I was really proud of. My publishing history. I think that actually turned out really well. I did a couple of videos about just the history of publishing, because horror was always the cheapest published possible. Stephen King got started in men's magazines, the penny dreadfuls, the pulps. Pulps were pulps because they were made from wood pulp. The crappy paper that wasn't good enough for regular magazines was made into magazines of horror. That sort of stuff was really cool. So you have to, if you know the publishing history of penny dreadfuls, just the cheapest paper possible. Pulps, the cheapest paper possible. Men's magazines were not of great repute, but that's where Stephen King got his first stories published. And girly mags. And I think another thing I did really well, I found a lot of other videos for students. If I were teaching this course in a classroom, I would certainly have a couple of video days, like several. I'll go over that later, of course, when I'm going over this is how classes should be broken down. But there's things that videos like A History of Horror with Mark Gatiss, Horror Europa with Mark Gatiss, the Lovecraft documentary, the Philosophy of Horror video by, I don't know, but I'll put it in, what's his name? Which I'm going to rewatch because he has a good section on horror psychology, which I'm going to rewatch and absorb. And he talks a lot about, he gets a lot of his stuff also from Noel Carroll. It was a decent video. It was a badly made video, but it was a decent content video. And there's a couple of there was the slasher documentary, definitely worth watching. Oh, what's on here? 1 second. I can see this a lot better than you guys can. Oh, the True Asian Horror for the Southeast Asian and East Asian. Right. There was a couple of other things definitely worth video-wise that would work. When I originally had the concept for the class, and I was thinking about teaching this either high school or college. I'm not qualified to teach college, so that won't happen. taught it at a high school. Of course, you can't really show anything in a high school that will get you fired. Duh. And that includes R-rated movies. Duh. So you'd have to find a PG version or PG-13 and have waiver forms and stuff. It's red tape in high school. But there was when I was talking about the complex discovery plot in Noel Carroll's book, the best example, the easiest example for high schoolers to get was Monster House, which was a Robert Zemeckis animated film, which was a very good complex discovery plot made for kids. I watched it in the theaters with my mom several years ago, whenever it came out in the theaters, obviously. And I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, this is a complex discovery plot. That's great. This is a great example of a complex discovery plot. And it is. And, if you're teaching in a high school, what a great way to illustrate complex discovery plot than to do a homework assignment. Watch the video in class, homework assignment. What's the complex discovery plot in this movie? Boom. Neat little thing. And of course, kids in high school and college love watching movies in class. Duh. Right. So, yeah. I will... Oh, okay, that's good. So, otherwise on here... You can't see it. It's very small print, because on this Excel document that I have all the videos. And what I did real quick was column A, which is this column furthest to your left. I shrunk it down so I could get it all on one page. There's a series of white, and then yellow, then white, then yellow, then a little line of white, and then another yellow. That was just how I broke down the videos. Section A in the the monstrosity section is the intro syllabus, my CV, the monsterness areas. What King defines as a monster, what Lovecraft defines as a monster, and the fusion, fission, metonymy, magnification, and massification videos. The first ones I did. The first 9, actually. And of course, my CV would not be a course that I would teach in class. So 8 videos, really. And what's interstitiality, that sort of thing, monsterness, monstrosity, which is a lot of Carroll, as I said before, pages 12 through 56, 52. The second section, the first yellow one over here on the left, is horror plots, this section B that we went over. Complex discovery plot, Overreacher, Fantastic, and then King's versions of Tale of the Hook, Tale of the Tarot, and then the tarot cards of Vampire, Werewolf, Thing Without a Name, and Ghost or Bad Place. Both Ghost and Bad Place, or however I broke it down, which is weird. But we talked about King on that as well. And of course, the next white section is huge, and that's, of course, section C, History of Horror, Horror's History. It's just a huge section. The first one is why I'm teaching it backwards. There's another one in there, but when I did the offer to you guys to do video book reports, which would of course be part of the class if it were taught, or video reports, DVD reports, movie reports. Yeah. If I missed, I did miss Phantom of the Opera, LaRue, in the 1890s, or was it 1900s? I don't remember which one should have been in, but whatever it was, I missed it. And then I did another video that was sort of just, okay, this is LaRue, blah blah blah. Sorry I missed it. It's a good book, by the way. You should check it out. So there's a few in there that weren't real videos. But basically, decades for the 2000s and 1900s, and quarter of centuries for the 1800s, and century for the 1700s, and then everything else prior to 1700. That's the big history of horror section, and it was huge. The next one was horror anthropology, this yellow section near the bottom, broken up by that one little line, which was horror anthropology, East Asian, Southeast Asian, South Asian, Eastern Europe, Middle East, was it Northern Europe, Central Europe, South Europe, African, Oceanic, Central American, South American, and Caribbean and Mexico. Again, I'm really proud of that part. I got 10 videos out of it. I was seriously hoping to get 3. And I think it could be expanded further. I'm not trained as an anthropologist. If I were confident enough to teach this course again, I would get some training, at least somewhat. I'd take an intro to anthropology course at a community college in order to apply it somewhat into horror. As it is, it's just, what's the flavor of East Asian horror? If you're a cynic, which I am, that could come off as, what's the stereotype of East Asian horror? Well, I don't want to do that. That's what the training as an anthropologist would help as. What's the training, what's the flavor of Middle Eastern horror or Oceanic horror? You could be accused of pigeonholing these people, which I'm not trying to do. I'm just mentioning trends, trying to mention trends that seems to be flowing through each areas. Not trying to come off as prejudiced. It's not prejudiced. It's not trying to come off as stereotyping Asian horror or South Asian horror or African horror or whatever. But training as an anthropologist would certainly help with that section. The next little tiny sliver line really belongs up at the top, because that was when I did Fusion Revisited, because I thought of it on the plane when I was in the middle of horror anthropology. No, when I was done with horror anthropology. When I was coming back from my cousin's wedding, actually. And I brainwaved another fusion style. It's like, okay, that's cool. Let me talk about this for a while. So I was redoing. That was video number 54. And then horror, this bottom yellow section, is non-narrative horror, so-called. which I'm still of in two minds about, because, as I've said in pretty much every video there, none of it succeeded in being truly non-narrative in its horror. Atmospheric in some of the music, in some of the dance. There's some that come so close, but I don't know if they succeed. Hexentance and some classical opera or symphonic pieces like Night on Bald Mountain, or they're so close to being horror without a story. And Night on Bald Mountain's part of a story, so that doesn't really count either. Hexentance is something else entirely. There's some that are so close, but I don't really think any of it really catches as non-narrative horror. Do I go back and shove that into horror history? No, horror history is too big anyway. But, I have 9 videos of it. It's its own section. It deserves to be its own section. It's just an oddball section. So that's that non-narrative horror, the one I just finished a couple weeks ago, and I've been uploading. So I'm finally catching up with my uploads and making videos. It's been strange thing of uploading and making videos, but yeah. This pink section on the side, this is me trying to figure out, if I were to make it into a course, a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday course, how many weeks would I have? Well, I'd have 13 and almost a bit weeks. If I was doing it a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday course, I'd have 22 weeks. If I did just a Tuesday, Thursday course, I'd have 32 weeks. Which is strange for doing it as a college course or a high school course. You'd have to add more stuff in, which is basically another reason why I need to add in a Psychology of Horror section of class. Section F, which would probably be Section C before History of Horror, or D after History of Horror but before Anthropology. It's still not one of my interests, though. So I don't know if I could even do it justice. The guy that I can't remember, I'm going to go back and re-watch his video and, try to get re-inspired. I'm going to reread some of the stuff that I need to reread to try to get re-inspired. And maybe I will, and maybe I'll make a couple of videos about it. But anyway, this is an overview of how I did in the course, or how the course did in general. It's a longer video than I was expecting to make, for almost 50 minutes. But, it's just for us chickens, you know what I mean? It's still hot. So anyway, I'm going to, next time, go over the this in my Excel document in more depth. I'll blow it up so you guys can see it and make different pictures. This is more of a picture for me, and I need to have some slides, so I needed to put this up so I could just talk behind a shield for a while, which is helpful for these videos for sure, to be able to put a slide up and say what you want without having to look interesting. Yeah, so next time I'll be going over this, essentially. And this is interesting if you're into Excel documents. It should be good. Talking about, okay, if you have a 45-minute course, class time, how would you go over this 100-minute thing that I talked about for an hour and 10 minutes on some strange topic? What would you, in a 30-minute video, what would you have for homework prior to that, or reading prior to that? If it's too short, you're not going to have enough to talk about. If it's too long, you're going to have too much to talk about. How would you break that up? And you don't want to stop in the middle of a very important thing because you'll lose some attention till the next class. Follow? That's what I want to go over next video. And that's going to be difficult. I thought this one was difficult to try to come up with stuff to pat my own back about. And find problems with myself, which is easier. Anyway, folks, have a great night. Thanks for watching. My name is Drew. This is Horror Analysis. This was the wrap-up video number 1 of the course. Thanks for watching.